Howdy folks, in this video I'm going to cover mixing for beginners. I'm targeting folks new to the concept of creating their own music on their own PC or their Mac in their own DAW. This is not for engineers, this is not for pros or veterans. These are basic concepts, 20 different things that new composers need to think about and try to learn how to get good at if they want to have some success in creating music that can be placed on TV and films, etc. So let's get started. So the first thing you need to think about when you're mixing is how do you hear your music? It used to be that folks always said only mix in speakers, but headphone technology has gotten crazy good. The headphones you see here are Steven Slate VSX audio modeling headphones, and they are game changers. I hate using that word, but they are game changers, at least for me. They're audio modeling headphones. They're very, very comfortable. They sound fantastic, but the VST software that Steven Slate created emulates different listening environments. There's the default Steven Slate Studio that has a mono speaker and near fields and midfield monitors, but it also comes with, I think, 5 other rooms, one of them being an SUV. Want to hear what music sound like in your car? Instead of going out to your car or your truck to listen, you can do it on these headphones, and it's incredibly accurate. Want to hear what music might sound like on AirPods or Airbuds? I don't have them, the Apple earphones. Put a button, bam, it sounds like that. Or these other headphones, or this audiophile room, or this other room, or this club. It's incredible how effective it is. And why would you do that? Because in different environments, you hear things differently. If you go to the club mix and suddenly your bass is incredibly boomy, that's good for the club, but maybe too boomy. If you go to the car, I think the car mix is really good. I mean, if you read the Mixing Engineer's Handbook, the timeless book, I think it was Bobby Owinski, if I'm getting it right at the top of my head. So many of the engineers he interviews talk about doing the car test, taking back then their tape out to the car. And I've done it millions of times. I upload tracks to SoundCloud, go out to my truck, connect to SoundCloud, play it through the speakers, and to hear it. I no longer need to do that thanks to VST. I'll put a link in the description. They truly are game changers. I don't use that word lightly, but they're fantastic for mixing. A lot of times you can't mix the speakers. I mean, if you're like me, I've got a day job. I do most of my writing at night. My kids are grown up now, but when my son's home from college, I don't want to be blaring stuff because he wants to sleep because he's exhausted. If you got a baby, you got a wife that works hard and she needs to take a nap, you want to be blaring your music, so you got to go to headphones. So these are great headphones. But if you want to go through speakers, get yourself a nice quality pair. What quality is depends on who you talk to. I've got some nice Yamahas that I enjoy. I've got a pair of near fields. I got a Yamaha sub, and I've got a Behringer baritone grok or mono speaker, which is really cool. We'll talk about in a minute. But whatever you do, whether it's headphones or speakers, you want to get used to those speakers. You want to listen to some quality music in the genres that you like to write. Listen, if it's hip hop, listen to your music on your speakers to understand how the kick and the 808 sound, the hats, the vocals. If it's classical, listen to the brass and the strings. If it's pop or country or Americana, whatever, listen to lots of music on those speakers so you understand the spectral quality, so that when you write your own music, you can know, geez, my guitars don't sound as crisp as those guitars, or my kick doesn't have any kick. Why? So get used to hearing quality music on your speakers, and now you know what a target sounds like. So you have to have something quality to monitor. But 90% or more of my time, I'm listening on my VST headphones, and they're just fantastic. If you're using speakers or if you're recording live instruments, guitars, vocals, horns, etc., you want to treat your room to get rid of resonant frequencies and block the bass or muffle the bass. Why do you need bass traps? Like this thing you see, these triangles, foam pieces here, those are bass traps. You can drop them in the corner of your room, up in the corner of the ceiling. You want to capture and kill those bass frequencies, because if your room has certain resonant frequencies, especially in the bass, if you're in a square room with a wood floor and nothing on the walls, you're going to have lots of reverberations. And in the low end, your speaker's going to generate that sound, and they're going to sound boomy. You're going to think, yeah, I've got a good amount of bass. I don't need to crank my bass. I may turn my bass down based on what I hear in my room. But then without bass treatment or bass traps, you play that music on someone else's system, it's like, it sounds empty or thin. Where'd the bass go? It's because you didn't add enough bass because you were hearing the bass naturally in the room reverberation. So getting foam to block those frequencies will help you have better quality mixes. You got to learn your speakers, and you got to learn your room. Instrument quality. This applies to voice, to strings, to horns, to piano, to software. You want to have good quality instruments. As a teacher, I used to teach saxophone lessons to kids of all ages and adults as well. And parents would ask, does the quality of my son's saxophone matter at this stage? And the answer is absolutely yes. If you go to a pawn shop and get a crappy saxophone for $200, the thing could be leaking, the keys could be horrible, it could just be a piece of crap. And you teaching a kid how to blow and to move their fingers, if the instrument is making it harder for them, it's making it harder for them to learn. Okay, so you want a good quality instrument, and that's going to get to a better sound. Same thing applies to software. You don't want to have an old Casio keyboard and MIDI sounding 30-year-old patches. You want to have top quality piano VSTs. You want to have great strings. If you're doing orchestral work of any kind, warning, spoiler alert, the bar is super high for strings and brass out there. It's super high. You may think it sounds great until you listen to some other stuff like, oh my God, I've got the greatest East-West strings, but why isn't it sound great? Because it's more than just a library, but you got to have at least a good current library for sounds. Now in the orchestral space, there's plenty of libraries out there. There's some great videos on YouTube about which orchestral library is best for beginners, what's best bang for the buck, etc. But you got to have good quality instruments. In the electronic genres, hip hop, trap, EDM, those, it's not about audio acoustic quality that matters, but it's about the tone, the sound, the patches, the synths being used, because pop music and electronic music changes rapidly. Trap changes rapidly, and so you want to have current sounds, current hi-hats, current lead synths, current basses, current kick drums. So instrument quality and recency certainly matters. So make sure you invest in proper high quality strings and a good piano, good microphones, and good other instruments for the genres that you write in. Workflow. This is a screenshot from a project I did in a different video, a simple dramedy track, and it's got 8 different instruments. A very, very simple track. The color coding means something though. So workflow. What is workflow? What are the things you do from beginning of a project to a completed project sent to a client? The flow of your work. You sit down. How do you brainstorm the form? How do you set up your DAW? How do you edit things in the DAW? How do you prepare your alt mixes when you're done, etc.? So, like in this screenshot here, my melodic instruments, in this case, a pair of pizzicato strings. The strings are green. The bass is always blue. My percussion is always red. At the bottom, that lifter, that's a special effect. That's yellow. I've lately changed that, so now that's red. And I'll put my horns, my brass, being brass, yellow color. Why do colors matter? A, it helps me visually see things better so I can work more quickly. But then when it's time for alt mixes, okay, I need a bass and drum mix. That's blue and red. Everything else gets turned off. No drums. Turn off all the red. It's just a way for me to visually see everything on the screen. So understanding your tools, working with templates, knowing where your samples are at, having repeatable processes so you can sit down and create music from scratch quickly without a whole lot of rebuilding and starting over. So figure out your workflow. Ask peers how they do things. I'm happy to share how I do things. I've shared a lot of my workflow in other videos, but figure out your workflow so you can optimize your time. Again, a lot of folks have day jobs and it's hard enough to find time to do music in the first place. So make sure your processes and your workflow are nice and clean so you can really optimize that free time that you do get. Critical listening is critical, hence the name. This applies not only to your own music, but to references. So a lot of times you'll be sent a brief. If you remember a taxi, you get a taxi brief and it'll show 3 or 4 references or a-las provided by, we want the music to sound like a la this. So listen to those references and listen critically. If you're doing a songwriter type thing, if you're a singer-songwriter, listen to the song form. Are you looking for something that's traditional? Intro, verse, pre-chorus, verse, pre-chorus, bridge, chorus, chorus, outro. Very, very traditional. Or is it something different? Is it different? Do they start straight with the chorus and do it? Is there a bridge even? A lot of songs these days don't have bridges. So listen for the song form. But for me, most of my music is instrumental. So when I get a reference or a brief, I'm listening to what they're doing. Okay, what's the first thing is the form. Instrumental music is different than songs. So usually it's 4 or 8 bars, change something, add something, remove something, break down, make it bigger at the end, short, stinger, outro. So you got to listen for the form. Then you got to listen for the instrumentation. Listen, okay, what's the instrumentation? What genre is it? Okay, it's Latin jazz. Okay, we got acoustic drums, we got acoustic bass. There's a piano, there's a guitar, it sounds like a nylon string. I hear percussion, there's bongos. I think there's a clave, there's a shaker, there's a horn, or two horns. What horns are they? Are they playing unison? Are they playing harmonized? Are they playing at the same time or at different times? Are the bongos in throughout the whole thing or not? So you're listening for the different pieces. What's the bass player doing on the verse versus the chorus? Is it busier? Is it slower? What are the drums doing? What's the feel like? So you're listening to every piece of the song before you start writing anything to understand the various changes that make the song what it is. So listen critically to your reference files and then listen critically to your own music to see what it sounds like. And if you're doing a new genre, you decide that you want to get into a different genre. You want to get you're Americana guy, but you want to get into to hip hop or to electronic or whatever. Immerse yourself in that genre for a week. Listen to nothing but that, and listen to everything. Listen to the bass, the feel. Listen to the various instrumentation and what it sounds like, the panning, the effects, etc. Listen critically for a week before you start writing it. So that's a very, very important thing. Musical composition. This is about balancing the different musical elements in your track. What should the listener be listening to at any given moment? A lot of times people throw in lots of instruments at once and they think adding more is better. No, but you always want to understand what's the main musical focus point in a given phrase. This actually goes back to when I was in college in big bands, listening to my instructors, my directors saying, "Look, okay, guys, where's the melody right now?" That's when one professor would say, "Where's the melody? Who's got the melody?" Okay, raise your hand. Great. Everyone not raising your hands, play softer. Your whole notes mean nothing right now. They're background to the melody. Right now, the trumpets have the melody. Let them have the melody. Everybody else stay out of the way. But next section, okay, trombones have it this time, or saxes or whatever. So what's the main focus point at a given time? And you've got an instrumental piece or you got a vocal piece, whatever it's going to be. Let's say it's instrumental. You got your first phrase and there's a simple piano melody. Well, now you want to bring in a second instrument playing the melody, maybe doubling it. So now both of those guys are being listened to. But the third phrase, maybe the piano drops out and now it's just the marimba or just a string instrument. So that means you might need to bring the volume up of that instrument or drop the volume down from the piano. Maybe there's some rhythm guitars or organ or something going on in the background. Make sure that's out of the way of the melody. So always understand from a musical composition perspective, what is the main thing the ear should be catching right now? And make sure everything else is out of the way. And that's going to vary over time. But if you keep that consistent, you'll always have a decent mix because long notes not in the way, melody's always focused. If there's no melody, maybe the breakdown section really is just the bass and kick drum. So that's the focus. And then when things get bigger, now the other things, the hi-hats and the melody and the horns, so just always think about what should the focus be at this particular point in the music. Musical performance. This means the quality of the actual performance of the music you're putting on your computer. It could be your quality of your vocal performance, the quality of your drum playing, the quality of your horn, the quality of whatever it is you're playing. I've heard a lot of music from a lot of folks the past 10 years. I'm relatively active in the taxi community, and I put a lot of feedback in when folks ask for it, because if you know me, you know I'm opinionated, but I'm going to share honest feedback. And the performance has to be good, because most of the time, music supervisors, even though they're not musically educated at times, they'll know the difference between a good performance and a bad performance. So you want to have, like if someone says, man, it just doesn't feel right. Maybe because the guitar comping and the piano comping, they're conflicting with each other. Or the piano playing is not really in time. The sustain pedal is used too much. The horn parts are not in sync with each other. They're not attacking and releasing at the same time. The vocal performance could be average, demo quality, not performance quality. So the best way to get a great vocal recording is to get a great vocal recorded. Okay? Get a good singer. If you're a singer and you think you've got it, don't ask your spouse or your mom, or your kids what they think. Ask other musicians and ask for honest feedback. Sometimes it makes a whole lot more sense to recognize I've got a demo voice, not a production voice. I need to find a collaborator, someone that will split the commissions with me or that will do it work for hire. But a bad vocal performance cannot be fixed with special effects. Okay. Same applies to piano playing and drumming and horn parts. You want to have a high quality, polished performance. It means a ton. Music will be rejected because it sounds like crap. I've actually had music rejected because it sounded too MIDI when it was me playing live instruments. I worked for years for good pitch and quality time, and I actually got feedback saying this sounds too MIDI. That was a few years ago. I was a little frustrated, but I just let it go. That track lives somewhere else now. So music performance, quality of music performance makes all the difference in the world. Mixing at low volume. Everything sounds better louder, but when you mix at low volume, you've got to really listen to say, okay, I don't hear those percussion instruments. I don't hear the rhythm guitar. I don't hear the background vocals. Low volumes. My understanding, what I've heard before and read before, is that you should be able to have a conversation with someone sitting next to you with your voice at a normal volume while the music is playing. If you can't do that, you're listening too loud. Another way to do this, some folks will play their mix and then step out the door and stand in the hallway outside their studio room. Different way to listen. So mixing at low volume, it really is an easy way to improve the general levels that you hear across the board. Reference tracks. In Taxi, you'll always get 3 or 4 reference links to what the client wants or what Taxi thinks the client wants, because a lot of times the clients don't know what they want and Taxi has to guess, and they try their best. But sometimes your clients in your libraries will send you, we want a song that sounds like this. So get reference tracks and listen to them. Listen to the mix, listen to the EQ, listen to the instrumentation, the volumes, etc., the attack transients on the drums, the intonation, etc. And find a good AB plugin. Now, I've been using Magic AB for a long time. I don't think you can get it anymore, but there are other AB plugins out there, I believe. What does an AB plugin do? Usually you drop it on your master bus and your DAW, and so if you think about it, if you just drag an MP3 of a reference track, let's say you're doing some R&B and you got a September song from Earth, Wind & Fire. If you just drag that in your DAW, and you play, if you got stuff on your master bus like compression or ozone or reverb or whatever, that's going to be all applied to that MP3 of your reference track, and it's not going to be a true reference. These AB things, what they do is when you put your track in there, when you push the AB button, it plays the reference track only with no effects off the master bus. So you're hearing exactly the quality of that original reference track. Then you push the other button and boom, now you hear your track. And you're listening for, let's focus on the kick drum. A, B, go back and forth. Let's focus on the bass. A, B, A, B. And you're focusing on different parts of the spectrum. EQ, crashes, horns, vocals, strings, whatever. You're going back and forth between those things. So A-B mixing off of references is a really, really helpful thing. And most of these A-B tools, like I know the Ozone has a learn feature where you can put in a reference or more than one reference and say, learn this sonic fingerprint of this track. And then you can say, okay, apply what you learned to my track. And it's pretty cool technology. So it'll do that. It'll help you a ton. With ears as crappy as mine, it's very useful. I haven't done it in a long time, but it's definitely helpful. You'll be like, wow, oh my goodness, what do they change? And you can go look and see what do they change, what do they cut in the EQ, what do they do with compression, etc. So learn how to appreciate and use reference tracks. Mono mixing is one of the coolest things out there, and no one ever does it anymore. Mixing in mono. You can do it via a mono grok speaker. You can do it via the mono plugin in your DAW. You can do it in a mono button on your audio interface. I've got all three. What does mono mixing do? It eliminates all the left-right stuff and just gives you a single, fire hose mono mix. You can adjust levels based on this. A lot of times, effects can be, tricky to your ears and may make something disappear, may make something louder. When you go to mono, it compresses all that stuff into the center, and you're like, I need more bass, or oh my goodness, that's way too much bass. Where'd my kick drum go? Oh, those hi-hats are killing me. Mono mixing is really cool. There have been times in the past when I mono mixed, I pushed the mono button on my my Mackie Big Knob audio interface that I still use, and I'm mixing. I'll come back the next day and I'll start mixing. I'm like, man, maybe I just got a head cold. It's not really really sharp today. Everything's it's good and levels are fine, but why isn't it? Oh, duh! Undo the mono button. Boom! Now I got a nice broad stereo. It's like, oh, this is an amazing mix. So going back and forth between mono and stereo is really, really cool. You might find some surprising results when you try that yourself. Gain staging. Look this up on YouTube. There's videos out there under 10 minutes long that show what gain staging is. It's super simple, yet a very, very effective way to give yourself a good starting point mix with which to work. In a nutshell, what gain staging does, you're staging the gain of each track. You bring all your faders down to 0, okay? You got no effects on. You fire up a pink noise plugin, put it up at 6 dB or maybe -6, -12, and now you got this going constantly. It's annoying. Usually best do this on headphones just to not drive your family crazy. And then everything's all the sliders are down. Play your track. Start with the kick drum. Bring that kick drum up so you can hear it. Boom, boom, boom. And then start sliding that slider down until you don't hear it, until it disappears into the white noise. As soon as that point when it disappears, stop the slider, leave it there, hit the mute button, go to your next track, go to your snare. Bang, 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 bang. Disappears right in the noise. And then leave it there, mute it, go to your next track. Cymbals, toms, crash, bass, guitar 1, guitar 2, vocal, blah, blah, blah. And you go through the whole thing, and everything starts at 0, then slowly your sliders come up throughout the whole mixer, and then they're all muted, and then turn off that damn pink noise because you're going to be tired of it in about 5 minutes. And that's really all it takes is 5 minutes. Turn off the pink noise, unmute everything, and bam, you got a nice fresh mix. Everything's at a proper level to start with no effects. You'll be very, very surprised at what it sounds like. You're like, man, that's level. It may be quiet, but that's fine because you're going to add compression, you're going to add effects to add volume, etc. You can always turn things up, but it's a really, really cool thing to check out. Check out lots of videos out there. It literally takes 5 minutes to go through a track and a project and gain stage. I think you'd be very, very happy with the results. Levels first. Gain staging is all about levels. But what this slide means is you want to get your levels right before you start adding any effects. Before you add reverb, delay, compression, chorus, flange, whatever it's going to be, shaper box, panning. Get your levels right first and then start adding effects. Because if you add effects, they're going to change the volume. So make sure you're right first and adjust accordingly. Get the levels straight for the whole ensemble before you start adding effects. High pass filtering, low cut filtering. And I actually prefer low cut. Here's why. It's called high pass filtering because in this particular screenshot, that yellow line, low frequencies on the left, the high frequencies on the right. Everything here in this particular shot, from 20 hertz up to 35 hertz or so, is cut. It's gone. It's out. You're blocking the low. You're letting the high frequencies pass. In my brain, I'm thinking I'm cutting the low frequencies out. So I call it low cut. It's the opposite of high pass. Okay? But why do you do that? A lot of times, especially in the sample world, you may have a cool snare drum sample or a shaker or a one-shot of some kind, and it's a mid-range instrument. If you fire up your EQ, you'll see on the low end, below 200, you see the waves being created. Like, I don't hear that. This is a shaker. Why is there a rumble in the low? Well, you may not hear it, but imagine you got a bunch of these things on your project. All those low frequencies are battling with each other, and they're fighting with your bass and your kick drum. So you think, why is my mix muddy? Well, go pop on up EQ on every track and say, oh my goodness, that's got lows, that's got lows. Slide that stuff over. Slide it to 100, slide it to more. Depends on the instrument. But cut that low end off to get rid of those frequencies that are competing or fighting with your bass and your kick drum. So I think this is really a good, and you can do the same thing on the high end. Cut the shrill end off of certain instruments as well, the end brittleness. Maybe that kick drum, if you're doing electronic kick, you might want that click for that EDM type, club kick. But you can make it a little muted if you need to, or maybe your guitars are too shrill, so take some highs off. But learn how to use your EQ on the extreme ends, and it really will help your mixes a ton. Panning. A lot of folks forget about this, or they don't. They just kind of apply it willy-nilly. When you're looking at an ensemble of any kind, you're watching a big band or you're watching an orchestra, the instruments are not all in a straight line looking right at you. They are spread left to right. That is panning. So let's say you're looking at, an orchestra. You got your violin 1 in the far left, violin 2 You got your cello, your viola, your basses are in the kind of the far right. You got French horns on the left. You got timpani in the back. So try to put the instruments of your ensemble where they would be on stage. It's going to make a difference. Let's say you're recording vocals. You've got a good lead vocal. You want some other vocals in there. You want to pan left and right. Horn section. Typical 3-horn section: trumpet, tenor sax, trombone. There's a million variations. But that trumpet's going to be centered. Put that tenor hard left and the trombone hard right. It'll just instantly thicken up your horn section. So when you're critically listening to your reference tracks, listen to the various instruments and find out where they are. You're taking notes. Okay, background vocals there on the left. Oh, there's another vocal, a counterpoint that comes in the far right. Where's my percussion? Where's my guitars, etc. Understand, listen for panning, learn how to recognize it, and learn how to apply it to your music. Effects. Don't throw a bunch of effects on everything. Just a bunch of reverb, a bunch of delay. Treat effects like you do seasoning when you cook. You put too much seasoning in, it just turns to muck, and it's horrible, okay? Just enough salt, just enough pepper, just enough garlic, etc., paprika, whatever it's going to be. Not too much. Same thing applies to reverb, to delay, to chorus, to flange, to whatever it's going to be. Distortion. And then don't put lots of things. If you want distortion, get distortion and get that one distortion plugin working fine. If you can't do it, maybe add a second distortion. But don't go crazy at a bunch of stuff just because you can, because that's going to add all sorts of frequency conflicts and fights and mud. So learn how to add just the effects that you need. And try to use sends or buses when you can. You could easily apply reverb to every instrument in your DAW, but if you want them to sound like they're in the same room, if you're doing acoustic stuff, orchestral or small ensemble or singing group, you want them to sound like they're in the same room. So use a certain reverb, and then use a send, and say, okay, send your snare drum to that same room, that kick to the same one, the vocals, and adjust the levels. But you want to use the proper amounts of effects. Don't go crazy with them. Mixing in context. That solo button is that yellow S in the middle of the screen there. That's important. A lot of times folks will sit there and obsess on their vocal and the EQ and the reflections and the reverb and the delay and whatever the compression, and they get it sounding great. Or the same thing for the guitars. Man, this 12-string sounds awesome. Listen to that chorus. Listen to that wonderful reverb and that slight delay, that slap back. Oh, it's so good. Then you turn the solo button off. It's like, where'd all that stuff go? I just hear guitar. Where's my crispness? Where's my delay? Where's the vocal doesn't sound so great? It's because you're mixing solo, not in context with the rest of the ensemble. So when you're adding effects, you generally want to do it while the rest of the group is playing, so you hear what the final product sounds like. Now you can always solo it and go and check for things. How long is the delay? How long is the reverb decay? But unsolo, listen for the final results when it's unsoloed. That's really all the mixing context means. Doubling. A lot of folks don't think about this. Oh, I just sang a great vocal. It's good. And I play my guitar. I'm Americana. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I got my acoustic guitar, my vocal. It sounds great. But no, it doesn't sound great. It sounds kind of flat. My chorus doesn't sound any more exciting than my verse does. My guitar, yeah, it sounds boring. Well, doubling can fix that. Sing your vocals. Sing it a second time, maybe a third time, and focus on, again, that quality performance. Make sure you're singing in tune, in good time, with good emotion, good diction, but double that voice. And then maybe on your verse, your first verse, it's just the one voice, nice and intimate, close to the mic. And then the pre-chorus, a little more energy. And the chorus comes in, you got your main vocal, but you got double 2 and double 3, left and right panned, and now your vocals are powering through because it's 3 of you, not 1 of you. That's doubling. Same thing with guitar, especially acoustic guitar. And it's doubling horn sections. Trumpet, tenor, trombone, play your parts. Okay, now play the parts again, or better yet, swap the parts. Trumpet part goes to tenor part goes to trombone part goes to trumpet. Now you got different instruments playing the same parts, just in different registers. It's doubling horns, doubling voices, doubling guitars, doubling drums for that matter, doubling snares. Sometimes I'll do a snare drum, and I'll take my snare and I'll delay it slightly, and then I'll do a second snare, a different sample, and I'll hard left, hard right pan those. Now I've got a nice double snare. You can do it with kicks, you can do it with other things as well. So try experimenting with doubling instruments to see what you get, and the panning has a lot to do with that. Eyes closed. When you're tweaking a track and you're doing an EQ automation or a volume automation or something, you got all these lines in your DAW, you're in automation mode. and then you listen to your mix, you're watching it, you're like, yeah, the volume's going up. Don't do that, because subconsciously you're preparing yourself for change. The reason you do the automation is you want to hear a certain effect. So play it back and then close your eyes. Did you notice what you were listening to or trying to accomplish? No? Okay, make the change bigger. Closing your eyes takes the distraction of the visual stuff on screen away, and you're focusing just on the audio quality, because at the end of the day, people listening to music are not going to want to be looking at a screenshot of your project in automation mode. They want it to sound good. So listen with your eyes closed, and that's because you're focusing on the experience. You know, my wife and I used to watch American Idol all the time, back when the music mattered more than the stories. And we would know when Simon Cowell found a good singer or was interested, because he would look away, or he'd close his eyes, or both. And you know he's focusing solely on the performance and not the visuals. Because a lot of times, American Idol is taking an average performance, but they've got the person dressed to the nines, they've got fire and light shows and all this other crap that has nothing to do with the vocal performance. A good instrumental or a good musical performance could stand alone in the dark. You don't need all that visual stuff, okay? So don't get lost in the visuals of your DAW. Close your eyes when listening for changes and see if you hear what you're looking for. And then when you're done, you got to rest your ears. Take breaks. Take a break every hour. Take a break every half hour. Walk outside. Go check email. Leave the room. Move around. Go outside. I think I said that. But you got to rest your ears, because after a while, you know, your brain starts kicking in, literally into compression mode. Everything starts getting compressed and crushed. Maybe your ears start ringing. You're getting fatigue. So it's easy to lose track of time. If you got any, you know, ADD, hyperfocus going on, you'd be in the project, then 2 hours later or 3 hours later, oh wow, I lost track of time. Go rest your ears, because you need a fresh take. Go get a drink, get a drink, get a coffee, get a snack, watch the Sports Center, you know, catch up on email, and then come back and listen again. But resting your ears is really important, and the best way is to sleep on it. You've been working all day, you come home, you're working on music all night, and you're tired, and you think it sounds great. It probably doesn't. It probably sounds good. I can't count the number of times I thought a mix was done, and I came back the next day and played it like, wow, what was I thinking? Man, the saxophone's way too loud on that. I'm a saxophone player. That's always going to happen. I hear the same thing with guitar players. The guitars are super hot. You know, you come back the next day and listen, like, wow, geez, what was I thinking? That sounds super shrill, or where'd my rhythm guitar go? So sleeping on it will certainly give you a new perspective the next day when you come in and adjust your mix. Never send your mix to a client after a long day of mixing. You know, there will be exceptions, of course, because of deadlines. But if you can, wait for the next day to listen, and you'll be, oh man, okay, yeah, I gotta fix that. And you'll be happy you did. Trust me. You'll be happy you waited and remixed it the next day. So that's really it. 20 different suggestions, tips, ideas. They're not magical tricks. They're just 20 things to think about, to learn about, to understand, to study, to help you become a better mixer of your own music. Because at the end of the day, you want to work smarter, not harder. Your goal is to create quality music to get to your clients, to your collaborators. And the more music you can create, the more money you can make in this industry. If you get your workflow going and you learn how to use your tools and these techniques, you can really get better at cranking out good quality music in shorter and shorter amounts of time. That being said, I hope this is helpful. Thank you very much for watching. Now go make something great.